If you enjoy hearing these eerie tales and want more to help you drift off or keep you up at night, don't forget to tap the like button. It really helps the channel grow. Letter from the girl who watched you grow up. Hi. The first time I saw you, I was surprised I could see you. You had a small turtle in your hands. You kept calling it Michelangelo, which I assumed was a nod to the Ninja Turtles. You tossed your long brown hair behind your back and knelt down to place the turtle on the ground. You were excited to see it wobbling on the grass. It reminded me of my cat and how I used to play with him when I was your age. I witnessed your entire childhood from my small window. Your first ride on a bicycle, your first day of school, your first real friend Brenda, your first day of middle school and the cute uniform you got to wear, the time you won the science fair and you brought home a trophy shaped like a cell. You were such a happy girl. I saw you grow older, your body changing. You grew taller, your body slimmer, your face as beautiful as ever. I witnessed as others started to notice you in a different way. The stares from the jealous girls, the googly eyes from the young boys. As all this happened before my eyes, I noticed myself changing too. I got older. I got weaker. I got disillusioned, bruised. I lost my will to escape my painful life. All I had was this window to your life to keep me going. I lived my days through yours. Watching you was enough entertainment for me. You couldn't know the different ways you saved me from bad thoughts, bad days, and all the pain I had been suffering from. I saw the day that handsome young man came to pick you up in a red convertible. Your mother wasn't happy about it, but she knew she had no choice. You had to start spreading your wings at some point. You left in a gorgeous floral dress that matched the summer's flowers. You came back late that night. You had a stuffed bear and some leftover cotton candy. I imagined you had gone to the fair. I imagined all the rides you must have gone on, all the fun that must have been for you. I was so happy that you had enjoyed your first date. And then came the magical kiss. He leaned in, blushing, and kissed you. Your cheeks were so red that I instantly knew I had witnessed your first kiss. I closed my eyes, imagining what that must have felt like. For 1 second, I imagined it had been me wearing that dress, smiling so big, with butterflies in my belly and a kiss on my lips. But I was happy for you. I wanted to thank you for allowing me to live again, for allowing me to dream again. I wanted to thank you, but just couldn't bring myself to you. I couldn't go talk to you. I didn't know how, if only you knew about my window. And then, one day, I heard him talking about you, the man I live with. He noticed you. I heard him complaining about how pretty girls like you shouldn't show off their legs like that. The moment he mentioned your legs, I knew it was over. I knew you would become his next trophy. I had to keep you away from him. This was my chance to thank you. I couldn't let you turn into me. I had been lucky. I don't know why he liked me this much. Most other girls came and went, never to return. And yet, amidst all the years, he always kept me down here. I think it's because he saw that I still had a light in me, because I had you. All the other girls died long before he killed them. I could tell that they were already dead in their eyes long before he viciously murdered them in front of me, showing off his skill. But not me. You kept me going. I had my little window. A little crack, high up on the wall of this basement I call home. He didn't like that he couldn't break me down. He didn't know about the little crack. So he kept me to see how long I could stay like this. It is a sick game that I've been winning thanks to you. But then, he noticed you, and I knew. I knew what fate awaited you if he laid his monstrous hands on you. Whatever strength I have left, I've collected it and prepared myself to finally do something about it. I want to thank you, because if you're reading this letter, it means I did it. I gathered my courage, packed it neatly into action, and went through with my plan to escape once and for all. I will make him believe I've died. I don't know if it'll work, but if it does, he will reach to pick me up. I'll immediately kick him as hard as I can where it'll hurt the most. as hard as I can. I will then steal his keys and run as fast as I can and drop this letter off in your mailbox. I have a feeling he will chase me and get a hold of me eventually because I am weak. I'm very weak. Battered. There is barely a human left in this body of mine. But if that is the case, I've been prepared to leave this world for a long time. I doubt anyone will hear or see me. This street is so desolate. You're the only life here, it seems sometimes. But so long as you get this letter, I know that I did my part and that you'll be safe. Monsters are real. This one is named Ryan Morehouse. He is your front door neighbor. I have been kept captive in his basement for a very long time. I've lost track of the years, but I believe I must be in my late 20s by now. I was 15 when he first brought me here. My parents must have looked for me. Please don't tell them about me. I don't want them to know about the tortures he put me through. I don't want them to see me broken down this way. I just want you to report him to the police. His evil nature and depraved mind can only be stopped if he is caught behind bars. They will find bodies dangling in the walls of the basement. I've learned to live with the smell by now, but they will notice it the second they step down here. There are a lot of young girls in the walls of my room down here. Tell them to treat them delicately. They were good girls. They've been my companions, my friends. Most of all, I want to thank you. You're the only thing that kept me going. You were my light. And now, I'm escaping thanks to you. Escaping this awful room. Escaping this awful life. Even if it means I finally get to die. With love, the girl who watched you grow up. We found this letter in our mailbox. After contacting the police, they entered the home of our neighbor across the street. Over a span of 5 days, they found a total of 15 bodies hidden in different parts of his house. He had plans to kidnap our daughter, but thanks to this mysterious stranger, his plan was intercepted. We still have not found the girl who wrote this. We like to think she made it out alive, but sadly, it isn't likely as Ryan Morehouse is also missing. We don't even know her name. But we did find the little crack in the wall, the one where she saw my daughter grow up from. Part 2. Hi, it's me. It's been a while since I last wrote you. I read on the newspaper that you received my letter. I guess you know about me now. I bet you're wondering who I am, what my given name was, who my parents were, where I lived, where I went to school, what I dreamt of becoming when I'd grow up. I don't know. Maybe you didn't wonder. Maybe I just wished you did. Maybe I just wished someone did. When you're locked away for so long, watching as the world passes by, not taking a second look at the blue house with the man with the fake smile, you start to understand that you don't really matter. You start to understand that the world only cares about the sensationalism and scare factor of a missing teen. They don't really care about the face in the missing poster. And that's when you begin to float. You float when he talks to you. You float when he beats you. You float when he enters you. You float far above it all. I read a long time ago that when you go through a near-death experience, many patients claim to hover above their bodies, watching as doctors and nurses work to save them. They floated. Apparently, this is a mechanism of the brain when it is going through extreme trauma. The event is so inconceivable to the brain that it begins to react in bizarre ways. It becomes detached, or at least pretends to, so that the patient feels safe. Well, I did that. I floated, watching from a distance the things that were happening to me. I guess that's what happens to you when you die a little every day. I guess that's what happens when they kill you a little every day. He was dashing. He was clever. He knew all the words to say. In one single second, our paths crossed and he changed my life forever. I can still clearly see that second in slow motion. The way his smile became distorted. The way he twisted my arms. The way my heart sank and drowned. An abduction is a heart-wrenching, soul-destroying transaction between the captor and the abductee. In one single moment, you realize you've made the greatest mistake of your life. You wish you could go back for just one split second. Back to when everything was still all right. Back to when you were still only a naive, innocent child. But you can't. It's over before you even had a chance to process it. And although you always thought you would fight like a beast in a situation like this, and you always thought you would defend your body and mind with every single cell in your body, you don't. Something inside you breaks and you easily become his prisoner. You quickly believe you deserve this for being such a fool. You quickly descend into a madness I wish upon no one. By now you know that I lived in a labyrinth of horrors. My pain seemed eternal. It seemed like purgatory. Sometimes, even now, I wonder if I'm not still there. If all this is just some neurons in my brain creating nicer pathways and showing me the life I wished I had. But there is one thing I always remind myself of when I begin to have these intrusive and deluded thoughts. Children grow up. Maybe I was a young, naive, and easily conquered child once. But even that could not last forever. In the end, children always grow up. But monsters, they always stay monsters. Ryan Morehouse. It's strange to say his name out loud and to no longer be afraid of it. But the strangeness of this new feeling inside me is slowly fading as I realize it was all real. The pain was real. The girls I met were real. He was real. My escape was real. I laid motionless, not breathing, eyes opened, mouth dangling. As he approached me, my body became tense, knowing the things he was capable of. But before he could do anything to me, I floated. The funny, beautiful irony of my story is that he taught me through pain and suffering the one trick that would bring it all to an end. I floated. I flew. As he kicked me that afternoon, I watched from above. But this time, even my physical body didn't react to the pain he inflicted on it. I can't explain to you what happened. Sometimes I think it was some sort of miracle. It was all too perfect. He really thought I had died. I could tell by the shock in his face. I was baffled by all the mistakes he made. I suppose he got used to my powerlessness. But on that day, I had a mission to save you. I couldn't bear to imagine you in his mind, in his hands, in his chambers of torture. As he dropped down to check my pulse, I knew it was over for him. He looked into my dead eyes. He stared intently into them, looking for any sign of life. And then I squinted with a half smile, startling him before I bit down hard into his neck. He never saw my smile coming into his skin. I think it's because he had forgotten what my smile looked like. I never knew I'd enjoy the taste of blood in my mouth so much. As he stumbled to the ground holding his neck and crying in horror, I stood up. And for once, it was I who looked down at him. For once, it was him who looked up to me. I could see it in his eyes that he knew it was all over. I kicked him in his head until I could no longer recognize him. There was a numbness inside me as I kicked and kicked and kicked. I felt nothing. In the darkness, I drove. I still remembered a bit of my driving lessons I had the year I was abducted. Driving was incredible and freeing. I drove for a long time in his truck. I knew I had to get rid of the car as the authorities probably would be looking for him and his truck after finding the letter I left you. But I didn't want to be found. I didn't want to speak to anyone, not the police, not any therapists, not the media frenzy surely waiting for me, not even my family. I was thirsty for a freedom that I had never known, a freedom far away from every single living thing. I made it to the desert and walked out of the car, leaving his body in the back seat. I enjoyed the colors of the sun as it lightly went to sleep for the night. The freedom that I felt inside me was indescribable. It was as if I had been born again. As the stars began to dangle above me, I wondered if you had read my letter. I wondered if you felt safe now. I wondered if you were thinking about me. But mostly, I missed you, and it made me anxious. As I enjoyed my freedom in the desert, I heard something coming from behind me. I looked over my shoulder and felt his eyes on me. I quickly turned around as he laughed, blood spilling from his mouth. He really did resemble a monster now. Did you really think I would be this easy to kill, you stupid cunt? He laughed, wiping his deformed mouth. Did you really think I didn't know you weren't dead? Even I have survived worse beatings than that, you fucking fool, I retorted, slowly smiling again. Monsters are funny. They always forget that there can be monsters hidden in pretty little things, too. I pulled his gun from my pocket and shot both of his feet. He fell to the ground once again, crying in pain. I'm not a kid anymore, I said, watching him recoil to the ground. I'm not a woman either. I paused, my voice changing. I'm not really even human. I'm not. I am what he made me. I am this thing that can't feel correctly. I am this thing that can float. I am this thing that has learned to accept severe pain. I am this thing, and I've come to accept it. But I don't think the rest of the world would. I won't lie to you. Ryan Morehouse and I, we still live together. Please don't feel bad for me. It is I who chose this. I can't help but feel that only he truly knows me now. Only he knows me in this deformed, twisted version of myself. Only he can understand me because I am what he made me. But he knows. He knows that it's my turn now. He knows that there is nothing he can do about it. He understands that he must serve me now, and that he doesn't have a choice but to be powerless and helpless like I once was. With time, he will learn how to float too. I wanted to write you this letter to give you a proper thank you. Thank you for always being there for me. Through that small crack, that small hole in the wall of the basement, I saw you grow up in your front yard. I saw you shine. It is what truly kept me going. Your beauty, your innocence, your kindness, your wit all made me live longer just so that I could watch you for one more day. It was like watching my favorite TV show, and I didn't want to miss one single episode. So thank you for that glimmer of hope that kept me going through all those years that I was held captive. It makes me eternally happy to know that you'll never know the horrors of that unforgiving basement. It makes me happy to see you on your journey. It makes me happy to know that you've put the fear of Ryan Morehouse behind you. I'm ecstatic that you've chosen criminal justice as your major. I like to believe that I had a little influence in that. I love the way you've decorated your dorm room. I also love what you've done with your hair. When the sunlight hits it just right, the highlights make you look like an actual angel. You might be wondering how I know all of this. Well, I wanted to admit something to you. I still get panic attacks. I still get horrendous flashbacks, and I end up almost drowning in my own sweat at night. So, I have done what I've always done to reduce my anxiety. I still watch you. Last night, I had one of the worst flashbacks since I escaped. I could feel him inside me. It was physically painful. So I ran out of my house and drove over to spend some time with you. Watching you sleep made it all go away. The way your chest rhythmically moved up and down brought a calm over me that I've only known when watching you. I apologize that I still have not physically introduced myself to you. I'm just not ready to come out to the world yet. I still have some things to do with Ryan Morehouse before I can reveal myself. But do know, one day, as all monsters do, Ryan Morehouse will expire from this world, and perhaps only then will I be truly free. Free to come and introduce myself to you. And maybe then we can be real friends. Maybe then you can accept me for who I am. In the meantime, thank you for your help in my time of need. I'll see you soon. With all my heart, the girl who watches you from afar. 6 months ago, we received a letter. It was a bittersweet moment. We rejoiced as we realized our daughter was saved from a horrific man, but we were saddened to find out that we had lived in front of a house where many young girls had been held captive and murdered. Most of all, we prayed that we could find the anonymous girl who left us the letter. Although we received many messages asking us for an update, we were asked by the detectives and agents not to share information as the investigation was active and ongoing. Normally, I would respect the wishes of law enforcement. However, I find myself in a difficult position. I truly believe the public should know about the dangers that hide behind pretty little houses in pretty little neighborhoods. It is nauseating and petrifying. This is why I've chosen to share it all. The first time we received a letter from the victim, we were thankful for the writer, for the girl. But this second letter has left us shocked and frightened. Once again, we are left with unknowns. The unknown of whether our daughter is now being followed by a stranger, the unknown of the mental state of this stranger, and the unknown identity of the girl who watched our daughter grow up, left a dead body unwatched. I regret it more than you can imagine. Trigger warnings: violence and murder. Post-death rituals are sacred, not just for our kin, but for every soul that departs. Few understand why we keep vigil over the dead, or why tradition dictates that the body must never be left alone. I didn't understand it either, until the night I learned the truth firsthand. A few years ago, I worked as a night watchman at an abandoned factory, long gutted by fire. The place had a reputation. People said it was cursed, haunted by those who perished in the blaze. But my experience with the place was otherwise. It wasn't ghosts that worried me. It was the living. Kids from the neighborhood loved to sneak in, drawn by the thrill of the forbidden. My job was simple: keep them out. My shift started at 8. I would relieve the daytime security guard, check the grounds, ensure everything was locked, and then retire to my shed for a smoke. That night, the air was still, the factory unnervingly silent. Then I heard a scream. Muffled, pained, dying. Faint, hurried footsteps echoed through the hollow corridors, vanishing into silence before I could place them. I followed the sound to the storage room, a place where shadows stretched unnaturally long. I knew the door had been shut when I checked the area at the beginning of my shift, but now it stood ajar. As I approached, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. I kept glancing over my shoulder, but the corridor behind me remained empty. I stepped inside, and my legs nearly buckled beneath me. There, lying on the cold floor, was a young girl, her clothes soaked in blood. Her tattered, oversized hoodie was stained and riddled with holes. Her frayed jeans, stiff with filth, clung to her frail frame. The kind of wear that spoke of nights spent on the streets, of a life abandoned long before death claimed her. Her lifeless eyes stared at the ceiling. I approached with trembling hands, my breath coming in short, uneven gasps. The sight of her, so still, so violently lifeless, sent a cold dread curling in my gut. My skin prickled as if unseen eyes were watching. Careful not to step in the spreading pool, I knelt and pressed 2 fingers to her neck. Her neck was still warm, but she had no pulse. She was gone. I scanned the room. It was empty, but something else caught my eye. The dust on the floor bore more than her tracks. Another set of footprints led away. Someone had been here. Someone had fled. My heart pounded as I backed away and reached for my radio. I left the room, stepping into the hallway where the air felt marginally less oppressive. In the adjacent office, I fumbled with the radio to contact Central Dispatch. "Stay where you are, sir. Officers are en route," the dispatcher ordered. I almost stayed where I was, in the small office next to the storage room. I wanted to keep as much distance as I could between me and the corpse. But something gnawed at me. A weight in my gut, a feeling of dread that told me it wasn't over. I stepped back inside the storage room. The room was empty. The blood remained, congealing into dark rivulets. But the girl was gone. My breath hitched as a chill slithered down my spine. Then a draft brushed my face. The window, which was closed before, was now yawned open, a black void against the night. I looked up and she was there. Perched on the windowsill, her body coiled unnaturally, an eerie distortion of human form. Her limbs jutted at grotesque angles, her elbows bending the wrong way, shoulders unnaturally high as if wrenched upward. Her neck lolled, stretched longer than it should have been, her head tilting, rolling slightly, as though barely attached by sinew. Each slow, deliberate movement made her joints pop wetly, an obscene mimicry of human motion. Her fingers, once delicate, had stretched into unnatural lengths, their joints protruding at odd angles. The nails, which might have once been trimmed, now jutted out like jagged claws, dark and cracked as if rotted from within. Her head cocked. She grinned, her lips parting far too wide, revealing teeth that were yellow and sharp. "Glad you never thought to guard the corpse," she rasped, her voice a guttural scrape, as if forced through vocal cords not her own. Then she moved. She didn't jump. She didn't climb. She moved. I wanted to run, but my body refused to listen. My breath caught in my throat as she slithered up the wall and onto the ceiling, her movements impossibly fluid. Her limbs bent the wrong way, shifting like a grotesque marionette as she crawled toward me, her back arched like a predator stalking its prey. And then she dropped. Her feet stuck to the ceiling, but the rest of her body lowered toward me, suspended upside down, her twisted face inches from mine. A cold weight settled in my chest, squeezing my lungs, my limbs frozen in place as terror clawed its way through me. Her breath was ice against my skin. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing myself to wake up, to escape the nightmare unraveling before me. The silence stretched. Then, a cool breeze brushed my face. I opened my eyes. She was gone. The window stood wide open, the night beyond yawning and empty. My legs buckled, and I collapsed onto the floor. That's how they found me, shaking like a leaf in a storm, unfocused. It took the police a couple of days to take my statement because I was too delirious with fear and shock to speak coherently. I couldn't describe the girl. They obviously didn't believe my story. They marked the floor with evidence tape and took samples of the blood. But with no body and no leads, their investigation stalled. They kept me for questioning, but with no body, no weapon, and no trace of the girl, they had nothing to hold me on. In the end, they let me go. The factory was old and devoid of any CCTV cameras. They had little to go on, just the blood on the floor and a security guard whose story didn't fit normal patterns of this world. In the absence of substantial evidence, they had to let me go, though my company wasn't so kind. They fired me, which was fine by me. After what happened, I had no strength to go back to that place. I took my next job as a janitor at a food court. It's a decent job with enough pay to cater to my needs, but most importantly, I'm always surrounded by people, and I never work night shifts. You see, I come from a faith that believes in guarding the dead until their final rituals are complete. We believe the body is made up of 5 elements: sky, air, fire, water, and earth. Our bodies are vessels for the soul to fulfill its destiny. Once the destiny is fulfilled, the soul departs, and we must return the body to where it came from. Cremate the body and spread the ashes into the elements. But until that happens, the body is vulnerable to things that have no destiny to fulfill, no previous karma to atone for. Things that linger between life and death, rejected even by the bad place. Something from that realm was present that night. And when I stepped outside to make the call to dispatch, it found its opportunity. It took the empty vessel. Somewhere out there, it still hunts. It spared me last time, perhaps because I gave it exactly what it wanted, an unguarded body. But I fear if our paths cross again, this time I won't be so lucky. I found my roommate's corpse, but he's still texting me. It started 2 days ago. I live with my best friend, Aaron. We've been roommates for 2 years, and despite our occasional arguments over dirty dishes and stolen Wi-Fi, we get along fine. Or at least we did, until I found him dead in his room. I didn't even mean to walk in. His door was slightly open, and I just happened to glance inside while passing by. That's when I saw him. Aaron was sprawled across his bed, one leg bent at an awkward angle, his arm dangling off the edge. His face was pale, no, not just pale, gray. His eyes were half open, glassy, unfocused. His lips were cracked and tight, pulled back slightly from his teeth. It looked like he had been dead for hours, maybe even a day. The air in the room was thick, rotten, like something wet and meaty left out in the sun too long. I gagged immediately, slapping a hand over my nose. My brain stuttered, trying to process what the fuck I was seeing. Aaron's dead. I'm looking at his corpse, and then my phone buzzed in my pocket. I jumped so hard I nearly tripped over my own feet. My hands were shaking as I pulled it out. It was a text. From Aaron. Aaron. Hey man, can you grab some eggs on your way home? I stared at the screen. The room felt like it was closing in around me. Aaron's fucking dead. My eyes flicked back to the bed. His body was still there. Still unmoving. Still bloated and starting to fucking stink. Another message came in. Aaron. Dude, you good? My stomach twisted. My pulse slammed against my skull. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. I forced my legs to move, stumbling backward out of the room. I slammed the door shut behind me, my breath coming in ragged gasps. This isn't real. But the smell. The fucking smell. I nearly threw up right there in the hallway. My phone buzzed again. Aaron, you're acting weird. Just answer me, man. I turned and ran. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him. Saw his stiff, twisted body. Saw those half-lidded eyes staring at nothing. And yet, my phone kept buzzing. Aaron, why are you ignoring me? Aaron, come on, man, this isn't funny. Aaron, if you're mad, just say it. I turned my phone off. I couldn't fucking deal with this. But I could still hear it. A buzzing sound. A notification ping. My phone was off. But the messages kept coming. Somewhere around 3 a.m., I heard it. A creak. A slow, deliberate shift of weight. Coming from his room. I lay in bed, frozen, my breath locked in my throat. He's dead. He's fucking dead. Another creak. This time it was closer to the door. And then, a soft tap, tap, tap against my wall, right next to my fucking head. I didn't sleep. By the next morning, I had a plan. I was going to call the cops, report a fucking corpse. I made coffee, hands still shaking, stomach twisted in knots. The apartment smelled worse now, like the stench had soaked into the walls, into my fucking skin. And then I heard something that nearly made my heart stop. The sound of the shower running. I turned the corner slowly, like if I moved too fast, I'd shatter reality itself. The bathroom door was shut. Steam curled out from underneath, and then I heard humming. Aaron. Humming. I took a step forward, pulse pounding in my ears. Aaron? My voice cracked. The humming stopped. For a long, horrible second, there was nothing. Just the sound of the water running. And then, Aaron. Yeah. I turned, bolted for the front door. I was halfway out when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't want to look, but I had to look. A text. From Aaron. Aaron. Where are you going? I ran. I stayed at a motel that night. I didn't care how much it cost. I locked the door, put a chair against it, and kept every light on. At 2:47 a.m. my phone buzzed again. I almost didn't check, but something in me, a deep, gnawing dread, forced me to look. Aaron, you can't ignore me forever. I swallowed hard, my fingers trembled over the screen, and then another text came in, this one with an image attachment. I shouldn't have opened it. I know I shouldn't have opened it, but I did. The picture was dark, grainy, like it had been taken in a dimly lit room, but I recognized it immediately. It was my fucking motel room. A photo taken from just outside the window. I turned immediately, my heart seizing in my chest. I threw open the curtains. Nothing. Just darkness. An empty parking lot. And then, a knock at the door. I couldn't breathe. Another knock. Then, a text. Aaron, open the door, man. No fucking way. No fucking way. I backed away, my entire body trembling. I could hear something now. Something wet. Something breathing. I pressed my back against the far wall. Another knock, harder this time. Aaron, I know you're in there. And then, the door handle started to turn. I don't know what happens next. I don't know if I'll make it. But if you're reading this, if you ever find yourself in this situation, Don't fucking answer the door. The lost phone. I wish I didn't read the messages. Found this on some mental health forum before it got deleted. Figured it was worth sharing. Hey everyone, it's been a while since I posted, but I found something you might like. My mom found a phone on the street. Since she doesn't know jack about tech, she asked me to check if I could unlock it and call a contact. I found a way, some glitch in the lock screen I found online. Thanks, hackers of the internet. And yeah, curiosity got the best of me. Before calling anyone, I started reading the messages. I know, bad idea. But sometimes you just can't look away. Then I found this conversation. February 14th, 2018, 8:42 sent hey. Been a while since we talked. Don't hate me for this, but I'm not reaching out for good reasons. You know it's just you and Daniel for me. And with you so far away, it's getting worse. The anxiety won't go away. Ever since Emily died, every day is hell. But this feels different. I think I'm going crazy. 084305. Received. Hey, good to hear from you. Even if it's not for good reasons, you still sound like you're struggling. Maybe you should see a therapist again? I still don't understand why they let you out. 084642. Sent. Was kinda hoping for more compassion, less judgment. I'm a grown-ass woman, Jessica. I'm 46. I think I can tell if I'm doing okay or not. I'm not a danger to myself or anyone else, so legally they couldn't keep me. I'm just tired. And sometimes my brain gets tangled. I thought my sister would be there for me, but I guess not. 084722. Received. I'm just trying to help. But there's only so much I can do. What does Daniel say about all this? 085025. Sent. He's distant, barely talks to me except to say I need to wake up and see a therapist, just like you. He's been sleeping in Emily's old room for a few days now. I think he's seeing someone. I've overheard phone calls. Every time I walk in, he hangs up. Says it's work, but I don't believe him. 085140. Received. I really doubt he's seeing anyone. Things are complicated enough. You said your brain gets tangled. What do you mean? 085314. Sent. Hard to explain. Feels like my body isn't mine. I have memories of things that never happened, with people I've never met. When I tell Daniel, he listens. He tells me to dig deeper, that it'll come back to me. It's the only time he actually listens to me. 085339. Received. Maybe you should talk to a therapist about this. 85545. Sent. For fuck's sake, Jessica. Enough with the therapist. And they're not memories. I never lived any of this. Anyway, I gotta go. 085604. Received. Okay. Take care. You know what I think. 085611. Sent. February 15th, 2018, 42253. Sent. Jessica. It's happening again. I think I'm losing my mind. I woke up in the middle of the night. Daniel wasn't there. I was mad. I was gonna confront him. But then, I walked past the mirror, and I saw Emily. It was quick, just a flash, but I swear it was her. A mother knows. A mother feels these things. 042316. Sent. Sorry for the late message. 063039. Received. Did you tell Daniel? 063105. Sent. Yeah. He laughed, nervously, then just broke down. He's not handling her death well. They were close. But Jessica, if you only knew how much I miss her. 063224. Received. I know. February 16th, 2018, 063239. Sent. Sorry. I know it's late. I had a nightmare, but it felt so real. The fire. I keep dreaming about the fire, but this time it was different. This time, I was the one trapped in the room. Jessica, I swear to God, I felt it. The heat, the pain, the smell. Jesus, the smell. I don't think I'll ever forget it. 064321. Received. What exactly do you remember? 064438. Sent. You know I don't like talking about this. 064527. Received. I know, but your therapist was working through this with you, and it was helping. Just try. Please. You need to do this on your own. 064823. Sent. We were sleeping, me and Daniel. We'd fought with Emily that night. Something about a party. Boys, first big fight. We went to bed. After that, it's all a blur. I hear Daniel screaming. I smell smoke. Heat everywhere. 064838. Sent. Daniel is carrying me. We're leaving Emily's room, but she's not with us. 064903. Received. Why were you in Emily's room? 064920. Sent. I don't know. Why are you asking me that? 065016. Received. Think, please. What were you doing in there when Daniel found you? You have to remember, but you have to do it. 065033. Sent. I don't know. I think I was sleeping. 065348. Received. Sleeping. In Emily's room. 070137. Sent. Yes. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe Daniel and I fought and I crashed there. I don't remember. 070156. Received. Okay. And then 070251. Sent. Nothing. Blackout. I woke up in the psych hospital. Daniel was there. He came every day. 07321. Received. Why were you hospitalized? 070711. Sent. What the hell, Jessica? My daughter died. Burned alive. Is that not a good enough reason to lose my fucking mind? 070742. Received. Yes. But how did the fire start? 070758. Sent. You know. The firefighters said a candle tipped over in Emily's room. 071017. Received. And what was she doing? 071257. Sent. She was burning photos of the three of us. She was pissed off. Just stupid teenage angst bullshit. What's your point? You trying to make me feel guilty? Make me say it's my fault? 071319. Received. The firefighters never mentioned burned photos. Just a candle. 071538. Received. No. But you were. Emily. You remember it because it's your memory. You started the fire. You burned the photos after fighting with your parents. Your mother died in the fire. Daniel carried you out, but you passed out from the smoke. You woke up on the stairs. You saw your mother burning alive. Daniel couldn't save her. This is the second time you've been hospitalized, and every time you forget. Baby, it's not your fault. You don't have to live for her. You have to forgive yourself. 071639. Received. Daniel is taking you to the hospital now. They're going to take care of you. Love, your aunt. Because of me, I slap myself back to reality. Walking in the woods is no time to let my mind wander. A starving scavenger could be hiding nearby, ready to kill me for the food I'm carrying, or a misplaced step could land me in a bear trap. I focus on my surroundings. I should be coming to the highway soon. The boxes of ammunition rattle quietly as I walk. It's my first unsupervised trading assignment. Once I reach the trading post, I'll trade the spare ammunition for seeds and fishing tackle. Simple enough. As I exit the woods, I see the trading post. It used to be a gas station. Something seems wrong. There are few signs of people. I grab my shotgun and nestle the stock against my shoulder. I stand by the front door for 5 minutes listening. There are no sounds coming from inside. The door is unlocked. I enter, leading with the barrel of my gun. Inside, the floor is covered in blood. Bodies lay scattered. I see a familiar face, Marcus. His decapitated head is on a spike. This has to be the work of marauders, but the blood is dried. They must be long gone by now. I look around the building. The storeroom was cleaned out. I sit down to think. What rotten luck I'm having on my first training assignment. Then I hear the front door open. They've come back. Quietly, I pick up my shotgun and point it at the doorway. I hear footsteps coming my direction. My heart is pounding. The footsteps draw closer, and my finger shakes on the trigger. Then a figure comes into view, and in a frightened panic, I fire. Regret hits me instantly. I scramble over to the body. It wasn't a marauder. I just shot a young, unarmed woman. Her last breath comes out as a gurgle. I'm overcome with guilt. She was just coming here to trade like I was, and I killed her. I run out of the trading post and gasp for air. Then I hear rustling leaves. Standing at the tree line is a young boy, maybe 10 or 11 years old. We make eye contact, and there's a moment of silence. Suddenly, he turns and sprints into the forest. "Wait!" I yell. "Snap!" He cries out in pain. I run over and see his leg is caught in a bear trap. I level my shotgun. It's the right thing to do, to give him a quick death. But my finger won't pull the trigger. I can't do it. I see too much of myself in his frightened expression. I kneel down and release him from the trap. He takes off into the forest with a severe limp. He's just trying to survive like the rest of us, but I doubt he'll live to see tomorrow. I decide that all I can do is turn around and start walking. It's a long way back to camp, and I'm coming back empty-handed. I think my engagement ring was killing people. I never thought I'd be writing this, but I feel like I need to tell someone what's happened. Jake and I had been together for 3 years when we started talking about getting engaged. We both loved antiques. You know, items with history and stories embedded in them. Every weekend we'd hunt together through antique shops and estate sales, searching for all sorts of forgotten treasures. That's how we found the ring. The perfect ring. At least that's how it felt then. It sat in a locked case at Madame Eloise's shop downtown, a deep blue sapphire set in an intricate gold band with delicate filigree. Art Deco. Unique. Perfect. I knew it immediately. Jake, ever the romantic, insisted on buying it then and there. He shooed me from the store, promising to make it special. 2 weeks later, on a warm evening, he led me to our favorite park bench beneath the willow tree we always loved. He knelt, eyes bright with excitement, and presented a small velvet box. I knew what was inside before he even opened it. But when my eyes finally fell on the ring itself, my heart stuttered, and I seemed to forget everything I knew. My mind went blank. "Where did you get this?" I asked, fingers hovering over the gold band. Jake grinned. "You know where." And I did know, of course. My brain was just temporarily mush, I guess. It was the ring from Madame Eloise's shop. But inside the band, something new gleamed under the lamplight. An engraving. LM and JC. I ran my thumb over the initials. Lucy M and Jake C. Jake shrugged. "It was already there. Fate, right?" The night air seemed to press around us. Something cold curled in my stomach. "What are the odds?" I whispered. "I'm not a statistician," Jake laughed, "but I think it was meant to be." We drank champagne under the willow, and I fell asleep that night with the ring on my finger, feeling like the luckiest woman alive. Then the nightmares started. I dreamed of a bride in a blood-spattered church, sobbing behind her veil. When she turned to face me, her face was bruised and tear-streaked. I woke, gasping for air, my chest feeling like it was about to explode. "Bad dream," Jake mumbled, pulling me closer. "Just nerves," I lied, glancing at the sapphire gleaming in the darkness. The next morning, things got so much worse. My neighbor waved as I collected the mail. The sapphire caught the sunlight, flashing blue for just a second. 5 minutes later, her brakes failed as she backed out of her driveway. Her car plowed into an oncoming delivery truck. I watched paramedics pull her mangled body from the wreckage. I tried to convince myself it was a horrible coincidence. 1 in a billion or something. But then my boss dropped dead during a meeting later that afternoon, just moments after complimenting my ring. An aneurysm, they said. I saw how his eyes fixed on the sapphire right before blood trickled from his ears. Deep down, I knew I had been cursed by the ring I loved so much. I had become a walking omen of death. On my way home that night, still in shock, I witnessed a man glance at me, then climb up to the ledge of my apartment building and jump without hesitation. The thud his body made when it hit the pavement will haunt me forever. His dead eyes found mine in the crowd. I clutched my hand to my chest, and the sapphire felt warm against my skin. Too warm. When I looked down, I noticed a faint burn mark on my skin. Around midnight, I decided it was time to remove the ring, but my finger had swollen. The band wouldn't budge at all. No amount of soap, ice, or oil could loosen it. As the days continued, so did the deaths. A barista touched my hand while returning change. Minutes later, he choked to death on a scone as I waited for my cold brew. An elderly woman who admired my ring at the grocery store was crushed beneath collapsing shelves moments later. At dinner with friends, I kept my hands hidden under the table, but Melissa insisted on seeing the ring. The moment the sapphire caught the light, a waiter carrying Cherry's Jubilee tripped. The dessert's high-proof alcohol splashed across nearby tables, igniting instantly. The entire restaurant went up in flames. In the chaos, I watched Melissa's hair ignite, her scream swallowed by the roaring inferno. Only Jake and I walked out unscathed. After 8 deaths in a week, I was desperate. I started keeping my left hand hidden whenever I was out in public, stuffing it deep into my pants or coat pockets. I also began Googling the ring online. It was such a luxurious and unique ring. I was curious if it had a history. It didn't take long to find the original owners, Lydia M. and James C. L.M. and J.C., just like our initials. The newspaper article from 1952 was brief but chilling. Local bride found slain on wedding night. The accompanying photo showed Lydia wearing my ring, and she looked just like the woman in my dreams. Something else disturbed me too. Jake had changed. His once warm brown eyes now seemed glassy and unfamiliar. Sometimes I'd catch him staring at the ring with an expression I didn't recognize. Possessive, hungry. When I mentioned the deaths, he'd shrug them off as coincidences. When I suggested we research the ring's history together, he changed the subject. I began to research alone, visiting libraries and local historical societies. I found more articles about Lydia and James. They'd been high school sweethearts. James had given Lydia the sapphire ring as a symbol of his undying love, a family heirloom passed down through generations. But on their wedding night, something had gone terribly wrong. The police found Lydia's body in their honeymoon suite, strangled. James was nowhere to be found. For weeks, the papers speculated about his whereabouts. Had he killed his bride and fled? Had they both been victims of a robbery gone wrong? 6 months later, James's body washed up on a riverbank 50 miles downstream from the bridge where his car had been found abandoned. His death was ruled a suicide. In my search, I discovered an old woman who claimed to be Lydia's cousin. She lived in a nursing home on the outskirts of town. When I visited her, she recognized the ring immediately. "You need to get rid of it," she whispered, her papery hand clutching mine. It was cursed by James's great-grandmother, a woman scorned. She wanted revenge on the family that had rejected her, so she placed a curse on the ring. It brings death to anyone who sees it, except for the wearer and their beloved. She leaned closer. But there's a price for that protection. What price? I asked. I think your souls, she said. I can't be certain. I only know James wasn't himself after he gave Lydia that ring. It changed both of them over time. The night he killed her, his eyes were different. I had seen them myself, empty, like you were staring through a window. Like Jake's eyes now. The old woman told me how to remove the ring. It had to be done on a new moon. There was a mixture I needed to prepare, herbs and oils and other things I won't mention here. The process would be painful, but it was the only way. The next new moon, I prepared everything as I was told. Jake watched with those unfamiliar glassy eyes as I submerged my hand in the mixture. The pain was excruciating. My skin blistered on contact, but it worked. The ring loosened. With one final, agonizing pull, I wrenched the ring free. My finger came with it, severed cleanly at the knuckle. Blood poured from the wound, but I felt only relief as the sapphire glowed with rage. Jake lunged for the ring, but I was faster. I dropped it into a cloth bag and tied it with red thread 7 times exactly as instructed. We drove to the old bridge at the edge of town. The bag seemed to get heavier with each mile, and I could swear I heard scratching coming from inside it. At the center of the bridge, we stood in darkness, staring at the black water below. No moon reflected on its surface. "Are you sure?" Jake asked, his voice finally his own again. I nodded, clutching my bandaged hand. "It has to end." He held the bag over the railing. For a moment, it seemed like he couldn't let go, like the bag was stuck to his hand. Then, with visible effort, Jake opened his fingers. The splash below was small. The ripples disappeared quickly. It's been 3 weeks. No accidents, no deaths. Jake is himself again, though he remembers everything. We both do. When Jake and I drive over that bridge, we both fall silent, staring at the water below. Sometimes I dream of the river bottom, of silt slowly covering the cloth bag, of water flowing endlessly over hidden things. In these dreams, I see fish swimming near the bag, then darting away suddenly. The ring is down there, waiting. Is it truly contained, or simply biding its time? When I wake from these dreams, my missing finger throbs with phantom pain, and I wonder if somewhere in the darkness of the river, a sapphire pulses in answer, wanted to take my child. I sprinted through the cornfield, the stalks clawing at me like fingers. Behind me, I could hear them, smell the acrid burn of their torches. The mob. I clutched my child to my chest, the only thing she had left in the world. I, her mother, her protector. Grief had already tried to pull me below, and for a time I drowned in madness beneath the ruins of my life. The fever had stolen my whole kin, leaving just me and my babe. They wanted to take her from me, from her own mother. They thought I wasn't fit to care for her. I couldn't let them. I pressed the small body, wrapped in a potato sack, close to my heart. Crows burst from the stalks. Black ink splattered against the gray sky. My lungs burned. My legs screamed in protest. To my left, something tore through the corn, snapping stalks as it came. The dogs. Wicked beasts with teeth like rake tines, sniffing out my trail, eager to rip flesh from bone. They hadn't reached me yet, but they would. I had to reach the river before they were loosed. Sliding down the bank, I hit the mud hard, still clutching the babe. My dress soaked up filth, my blisters throbbed, but none of it mattered. Nothing but the silent child at my chest. Nothing else in this world worth a damn. The river lay ahead, but the crowd surged closer, their voices crashing like waves. Then, something worse. The handler's command rang out. The dogs charged. I scrambled up the embankment, my breath jagged. A dirt road cut through my path. A wagon charged toward me from the south, torchlight glinting off rifle barrels. They wouldn't dare fire. A gunshot shattered the thought. Mud exploded at my feet, spraying my legs. A second shot cracked into a nearby elm. They were trying to kill me. The river loomed ahead. I ran toward it, willing my body forward, but something inside me told me to look, to see. For the first time, I looked down at the babe. Pale, still, lips tinged purple. I stopped running, feet sinking into the soft, wet earth just steps from the riverbank. Dear God. Hands shaking, I peeled back the potato sack. A boy. My child had been a girl. The truth struck like ice water, numbness creeping deep into my bones. I had buried my child, beneath the cedars. I had wept at her grave, my body racked with grief. Scarlet fever had taken her, just as it had taken all the rest. And in my grief, in my madness, I had smothered this babe in its crib, then taken the body with me. The howls and shouts closed in, the night thick with the sound of my reckoning. They hadn't come for my daughter. The fog lifted. clarity dawning in my eyes. They had come for me, because I'd killed someone else's child. The last gift. I pressed the blade to his throat, watching his chest rise and fall. His eyes are wide, sweat beads on his forehead, his lips trembling as he whispers, "Please." I grin. "Any final words?" "Just give this to my family." Tears spill down his face as he hands me the note he's written. I glance at it, shaky handwriting scrawled in ink. In a second, I slide the blade deep. His body jolts, then stills. Silence. I wipe the knife clean and fold the letter, placing it gently into my shirt pocket. No struggle. No fight. Just a quiet end. I leave through the fire escape, vanishing into the night. They call me a monster. A killer. The media feeds on fear, so they paint me as some faceless psychopath who slaughters the innocent. The police say I'm a coward who preys on the weak. They don't know a damn thing. They don't know the look of true suffering, how it lingers in the eyes of the forgotten. I remember. Mum first, then Dad. Cancer ate them from the inside out, turning them into shadows of themselves. The doctors smiled, talked about bullshits like palliative care and pain management. But we all knew, those were just euphemisms. They were dying slowly, drowning in agony, trapped in failing bodies they couldn't escape. They begged anyone to end it. But the law said no, calling it immoral. The hospital cared more about keeping their survival rates high, dragging out their suffering for the sake of statistics. I sat there helpless, watching them rot. The night Dad died, he clutched my hand, too weak to lift his own head. "If I were a dog, they'd have put me to sleep," he rasped. Then he was gone. I never forgot those words. I see them again in every person who begs for my knife. The ones drowning in pain, trapped in endless cycles of torment. The ones the world ignores, being forced to endure because the law says their suffering isn't enough. They thank me. Some cry with relief. Some smile through the pain. Some leave letters, not for me, but for the families who never listened. For the doctors who kept them breathing just to keep their numbers up. The police hunt me, but no one talks. Families don't grieve when I take the ones already lost. To them, I'm not a killer. I'm mercy. Oh, the man I just killed? He was a terminal pneumonia patient. The doctors said he had only 3 weeks before his lungs collapsed. In desperation, he called me. So I did my job. But society needs a villain, doesn't it? They need someone to hate, someone to chase. Fine. Let them call me a monster. At least I treat them as humans. I listen to them and I grant their wishes. The last gift of a swift, painless death. Whereas those greedy bastards still talk about morals while counting profits. So now, ask yourselves, who is the real monster? The man in my reflection never blinks. In my apartment, I barely paid attention to the bathroom mirror. The place was old and cheap, and I was too broke to be picky. The mirror was like everything else, stained, slightly warped, and permanently fogged in the corners. I only glanced at it in passing, never giving it much thought. Until the night I realized my reflection wasn't blinking. It happened while I was brushing my teeth. I had been staring absent-mindedly at my reflection when a strange feeling crept over me. Something was wrong, but I couldn't place what. Then it hit me. I blinked. My reflection didn't. I froze, toothbrush clutched in my hand. My eyes were burning from how long I had been staring, so I forced another blink, slow and deliberate. The man in the mirror held my gaze, his eyes wide and unblinking. I let out a nervous laugh, shaking my head. Maybe I had just imagined it. Maybe I was overtired, or the mirror was old enough to have some weird warping effect. It was an illusion, nothing more. That's what I told myself. Over the next few days, I started to notice other things, subtle at first. The tiniest delay in my reflection's movements, a hesitation before it matched my expression. A flicker, like a buffering video, before it snapped into place. And then one night, it smiled at me. I wasn't smiling. The change was so small, so fleeting, that I almost convinced myself it hadn't happened. But deep down, I knew better. Something was wrong with the mirror. I started avoiding it. I'd brush my teeth quickly, keeping my eyes down. I'd shower with the door open, towel draped over the glass to block my view. But no matter how much I ignored it, the feeling of being watched never faded. Last night, everything changed. I woke around 3 a.m., my throat dry, my body aching with exhaustion. Without thinking, I stumbled into the bathroom and flicked on the light. And I looked. I shouldn't have looked, because my reflection was already staring at me. It wasn't mirroring my sleepy confusion. It wasn't matching my sluggish movements. It was grinning. A slow, creeping smile stretched too wide across its face. And then, as I stood there, frozen, it blinked. But not normally. One eye, then the other. A cold wave of nausea rolled through me. My breath hitched. My hands clenched the sink so hard my knuckles went white. My reflection took a step forward. I flipped the light switch off and ran. I don't remember getting back into bed, only the sheer terror that kept me awake until morning. When I finally worked up the courage to check the bathroom, the mirror was empty. Not shattered, not removed, just empty. The sink, the tiled walls, the shower curtain, everything reflected perfectly. But I wasn't there. Then I heard it, a slow, wet footstep behind me, and another, and another. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. My body was locked in place, every nerve screaming at me to run, but something in the air, something thick, heavy, wrong, kept me frozen. My breath came in short, shallow bursts, my pulse pounding in my ears. The floor creaked. Whatever was behind me was getting closer. I squeezed my eyes shut. If I didn't look, maybe it wouldn't be real. Maybe I'd wake up in my bed and this would all be some fever dream. A long, slow exhale ghosted against the back of my neck. Not mine. The air around me felt colder, suffocating, like the walls were closing in. Then, a whisper. So close it could have been inside my own head. "You let me out." The lights flickered. The air smelled damp and rotten, like wood left to decay in a basement. I opened my eyes, and against every instinct, I turned around. There was nothing there. But in the mirror, my reflection was back. Only now, it wasn't mimicking me. It stood still, watching, as I slowly backed away. Then, just before I turned to run, it raised one hand and waved. The breath caught in my throat. My entire body screamed for me to move or to break the mirror, but I couldn't. I just stood there, staring at myself. Then, ever so slowly, my reflection lowered its hand and took another step forward. But I didn't. I felt it before I understood what was happening, an invisible force, something pulling at me, dragging me toward the mirror. My feet scraped against the floor as my reflection reached out, placing one hand flat against the glass. My body wasn't my own anymore. I tried to fight it, to move, to scream, but nothing came out. The reflection stepped out, and I stepped in. Cold. That's the first thing I felt. A freezing, suffocating blackness pressing in on all sides. The world outside the mirror distorted, colors bleeding into one another like wet paint. I slammed my hands against the glass, but it was solid, hard, and unyielding. On the other side, he turned to face me. My own face, my own body, but not me. He tilted his head, that sickening grin curling at his lips, then reached up and flicked off the bathroom light. Darkness swallowed me whole. I don't know how long I've been here. I don't know if time moves the same way. But sometimes when he walks past the mirror, I see flashes, glimpses of my old life, stolen by the thing that wears my skin. He smiles at my friends. He laughs in my voice. And every now and then, he stops, turns and looks directly into the mirror and waves. Killed myself this morning. My body's somewhere inside the house with you. The note is handwritten. I think it's my wife's. Maybe. Maybe not. I'm not so sure at this point. I am an attentive man. I was born in a big household with 3 brothers. I was the only one among them who didn't get an education. My parents made sure of that. But I did not complain. Even though I had to work my way up, I was the one who got a prestigious career at a law firm. My brother, Gerald, contented himself with being a bookstore clerk, and my sister Sarah became a housewife. I am the one who rose above that. This is such an obvious fact. I can't fathom why anyone else would think so. When they ask me to stay at the office because we have a big case tomorrow, I pay my dues and stay until 10 to make sure everything's been reviewed properly. When my ailing father's not doing well, I'm the one who remembers to pay for his medicines. When my daughter Claire asks me for some money to play with her friends, I always have some change in hand. But if it is true, if I'm so attentive, why does this note surprise me so? The ink looks fresh. In fact, I can tell you exactly from which pen this ink came from. It's my pen, the one I have right next to my laptop in the second-floor study. It's the only one I never use, so it's the one with the most ink. The paper looks neat, so it's probably from one of the office sheets lying on that same study. But I still can't tell you if this is my wife's handwriting or a forgery, if this note is for real or not, nor what could have even led to this. I ponder this, sitting beside my car in the dead of night. It is 11 p.m., another late night at work. The partners made me stay up late again just so they could take credit, but it's okay. The house is dark, no sense of living light comes out from its tall windows. It's difficult for me to admit it, but I get a sense of dread whenever I enter the garage late at night. It feels as if the house's mouth is swallowing me whole, as if a shadow encroaches upon me. This is a weekly occurrence, but tonight is different. The darkness envelops me, but the dread has given way to panic. A cold sensation trickles down my spine, and my bones resonate with a short, spastic quiver. Within the dark, a spark of thought emerges, but it is not a comforting thought. If I can't decide if this note is real, then there is the possibility that my wife is still alive, of course. Claire is off staying at her uncle's, so there's no risk of her being in danger. But what matters is, if my wife is all right, why is the house dark? Is she asleep? Who left the note then? Is there someone inside the house right now? Rancid, palpitating panic possesses me, and my feet take a mind of their own. In a daze, I open the side door and enter our kitchen. Nothing seems amiss, but I don't really want to look. I leave the kitchen and bolt to the living room. Once again, I don't really want to look. My focus is on the stairs leading upwards to the second floor. Taking the steps, 2 at a time, I nearly trip on the way up. It's amazing how much our bodies abandon our minds at times like these. As I race for the study, it feels as if my thoughts have divorced themselves from a physical plane. I am my body, but my mind is also myself. The study doesn't seem ransacked nor invaded. Quickly, I turn on the desk light. I can't bear the dark, not anymore. Nothing seems amiss. Save, of course, for the pen, and the sheet of papers has been slightly moved. Someone did come in here and leave the note on the garage floor. Someone wanted me to find it because they knew I'd only check these 2 rooms today before going to bed. I remember the urban legend of the madman who licks a girl's toes when she goes to bed, and the brief flash of that type of imagery makes me sit down next to the desk. But there's another thought, worming and coiling itself around my brain. A madman wouldn't know so much about me unless they had been stalking me for days, and I am not that interesting a person. No one is as attentive as me. No, the only person who would know is Lily, my wife. My dear sweet and possibly dead wife. My lip shakes and a small moan comes out involuntarily out of my mouth. This can't be happening, not to me. Why would she do this? It can't be. I pull out my phone. I'm still in a daze, so my voice feels distant, like waves crashing against a faraway coast. Gerald, I need your help. My brother sounds as if I had just woken him up. He obviously gets the pleasure of being loved and going to sleep early. Gareth, it's past 11. What are you doing? Gerald, I think my wife just killed herself and I need your help. Fuck. Please, can you just shut up and come here? What? What happened? I don't know, someone left a note in the garage and I'm here in the study. Take your keys and come here right now. Gerald takes his sweet time. He doesn't leave near me, so maybe I should cut him some slack. But the time gives me ample opportunity to think. I don't move from the study chair, no, I don't dare. But boy, do I think. Lily, she is my whole life. I met her over 20 years ago. I wasn't the most attractive man, nor the one with the most money. I simply promised her one thing, that I was going to be the one who took care of things. As long as she stuck with me, she wouldn't want for anything, because I wasn't the type of person to give up. To my credit, I did keep that promise, for a time. My breath fails me. I'm exhaling short gasps as I think of a long, decadent chain of failures. The time Lily had to drive alone to her mother's funeral because I chose work. She and Claire were inconsolable. That incorrigible weekend when she told me to pick up Claire from camp, but I got the dates wrong. I am an attentive man. How could I forget? The times I stayed up late at the office, but not because of work. I keep a separate cell phone to call Dana, but I'm not discreet. You tell yourself that keeping your phone in your nightstand is enough, that as long as you don't flaunt it in her face, your exquisite and long chain of infidelities are somehow forgiven. But it is wrong, it seems. Now, a death has occurred, and the dead are not silent. There is a long vertical line of darkness in the far left corner of the room. A simple misplacement of the light, of course. The way my desk lamp is settled, this small patch of shadow is inevitable. But isn't it appropriate? A disgusting, long, dark line that threatens to gorge itself on all that is around it. I hear rumblings coming from other rooms. The shadow grows. I don't know where my wife is. The shadow grows. Maybe, just maybe, her dead body is lying right next to me, her decaying face judging me without uttering a sound. The shadow grows. Of course I am not attentive. If I had been, I would have already known what ill had befallen my family before getting this note. Gerald finally arrives. Somehow, I'm able to explain what is going on. I show him the note. He looks aghast. For a moment, I wonder what his own wife would think of me when she finds out. "But why would she do this to you?" he says. "Perhaps," I respond, "because she wants to punish me. She wants me to pay more attention." Gerald tries to hug me, but I back away. I don't even recognize his face at this point. I can't even recognize the room I am in right now. "Come with me," he says. "I'm sure she's fine. This isn't your fault. We'll look for her together." I know she isn't alive. We start out slowly. Gerald assures me he didn't see anything in the living room. I think it's too big of a house, and he might have missed her. He dismisses me, saying a body is too obvious to ignore. The way he says the word body makes me recoil. Is that what my wife is now? Just a body? Is it my fault? Leaving the study, we head for the game room. There's nothing there, just a pool table, a TV, and a PlayStation. Of course she wouldn't be here. Still holding the note in my hand, something tells me to go to Claire's room. The door's open, but there's nobody there. But that's exactly what I'm afraid of. That there's nobody here but us. No robber, no big reveal. "Gerald," I managed to say after a while, "let's cut the crap. Let's check the master bedroom. That's where Lily and I sleep. If she isn't there, nor in the kitchen, it'll be all right. Everything's fine. I am not being punished for not being attentive enough. I get a second chance. Please let there be a second chance." We enter the master bedroom, our bed in the center arranged perfectly. There's no one else. Everything is in its right place, just like I left it this morning. Except for one thing. The door to the bathroom is closed. Gerald, can you... Sure. No, maybe don't. Let's call the police. Gar, shut up, it's fine. There's no one here. Please. No, Gerald, stop. I can't look as he opens the door. My eyes go in every other possible direction. But in the 3 seconds Gerald takes to open the door, I start to see things. Things that I hadn't noticed before. I am an attentive man, after all. The floor is wet. Not too wet, but it is wet. The drawer to my nightstand is open. The cell phone, the second cell phone, is gone. Oh my God! Gareth, don't look! Call the police! Gerald belts this out from the bathroom. I manage to see a pair of feet sticking out the frame of the bathroom's doorway. A pair of pale feet, and one of them has Lily's distinctive ankle mole. My stomach bile attempts to come out of my throat. Gerald was never the strongest one out of the two, but he manages to pull me away from the bedroom as I drench the floor in vomit. My sweet Lily. My eyes water, my mind races. There's nothing I can do to make this right. We stop moving until we reach the living room. Gerald attempts to say something. He mentions calling the authorities. He doesn't want me to move, but I'm simply pacing around until I'm resting against the kitchen table nearby. Gar, are you sure you knew what was going on with Lily? He asks. What the fuck kind of question is that? Gerald realizes his mistake. He pulls out his phone and leaves through the front door. He leaves it open just to make sure I'm not going to run up the stairs. Gerald, what did she look like? He doesn't answer. What did she look like? I yell. It's past midnight, but I don't care about the noise. Bad. She looked bad. She hit her head pretty bad against the floor. No. My Lily. Don't come up there, Gar. I don't want you to see her like that. She's all bloodied, naked, unrecognizable. Is that what you want me to say? Stay here while I call the cops. I turn away from him. I cry, but something sparks up inside my head. Another terrible thought. Why would she be naked? Why is the floor wet? Because she slipped. Why would she slip? The drawer. I start making connections. Lily takes a bath right before she goes to bed, always. Maybe. It can't be that. My wife killed herself because of me, this much is true. And if I have to overthink the details, maybe I should look closer at my actions, not hers. The cheating, the missed moments, the drained seconds I will never get back. Her face, her beautiful face, is something I will never get to see again, unless I go up the stairs and bring a worthwhile finality to it all. If I have the courage to see the bloodied, bulbous facade that used to be Lily, splattered over the white ceramic, but just picturing it in my head is enough. Her eyes are wide open, not quite looking at me, just stuck in perpetual horror. A purple, amorphous mass covers her right cheek, born from the sudden impact. Hours from inattention have given way to the natural process of decomposition. Despite the gaping, wide expression her mouth has managed to convey, one can tell it's just the beginning of a much more dreadful transformation, one I cannot bear to look at. Looking at her face would be the end of me. But the thought begins again. Why is she in the bathroom? It doesn't matter, surely, but I try to focus on the process of analyzing the details again. Lily comes up to take a bath before bed. I remember how I usually like looking at her undress. She leaves the clothes underneath her pillow. She turns on the bath water. Since she's careless, she usually lets it flow a bit while she undresses. What if she was doing this and Dana called? Dana left the office quite early. Maybe Dana called my cell phone, assuming I had brought it to the office with me. But I don't have it on me. I had left it in the drawer. The drawer which is now empty. Oh no. Lily must have grabbed it and started looking at the messages, the pictures, the calls. And while she was looking, the water kept running. She slipped and hit her face. My wife is gone, and it's all my fault. I need to lie down. I need to run away from this. I begin to move. Gar, where are you going? Don't you go up. You need to stay here. I pay him no mind, heading for the garage door. I'm going to ride my car. I need you to stay here, Gar. Please, for the love of God, just wait for the cops. You want me to call Claire for you? I'm in the garage already looking for the car keys. What do you mean? What did you tell her before you left? What do you mean before I left? Claire isn't staying with me tonight. Of course she is. She told me she'd be staying with you tonight. Gerald, please, I don't have time for this right now, I say, almost crying at this point. Why can't he be a nurturing figure, just this once? His voice comes in from the kitchen, very near me now. Gar, Claire stayed with me last week. I stay silent. He speaks again. Oh God, you forgot again, didn't you? I don't answer. Sweet Mother of God, I'm going to call her. I feel something slip out of my hand. It's the note. But I notice something new this time. There's something else written on the backside. It simply reads, "It's all your fault," in a very delicate handwriting. A familiar one, but it isn't Lily's, of course. She couldn't have written a note if she slipped in the bathroom. Then, a familiar ringtone erupts in the dead of night. The garage turns the sound into a cacophonic storm that assaults my ears. I recognize that tune, but it doesn't belong to me. I don't have to ask myself to whom it belongs to in order to know the answer. A flash of light, too small to notice during the day, but blindingly incandescent in the middle of the night. It's coming from the same phone emitting the ringtone. Gerald's calling Claire, and the tone is coming from this room, from the garage. My eyes follow the source. The light, it plays with the dark. There's another line of deep dark shadow that stretches itself out from a faraway corner. I can see an opened toolbox with a bloody screwdriver lying on the ground. My eyes follow upwards to the tumultuous darkness. I stare at the darkness, and my daughter's dead eyes stare back at me. I've been living the van life for a while now, but last night some kids knocked on my window. They wanted me to let them in. I don't know how long I have. My battery's at 14%, and I don't dare start the van. If I do, they'll hear me. I know that sounds paranoid, but you didn't see them. Or maybe you have. If you have, tell me. I need to know how to get out of here, okay? I travel alone. I document it. My channel isn't big yet, maybe 12,000 subscribers, but I post regularly. Off-grid campsites, van conversions, solo travel tips, that kind of thing. I stay out of cities, and I stay off well-worn paths. The further I am from people, the safer I feel. Or I guess I should be saying, the safer I used to feel. Tonight I'm parked off a forest road in Idaho, miles from the nearest town. It's the kind of place where, if you screamed, no one would hear you. That's one of my go-to videos, by the way. A big scream, loud as I can, and then just the silence afterward. Basically, the place was perfect, until the knock came. A single soft knock, not on the door, on the window. I froze. It was just after 1 a.m. The woods were silent, no wind, no animal noises. My van is unmarked. I never advertise I'm a woman traveling alone, and I always wait and post my videos a week after I leave the spot, just to make sure no one catches on to where I'm parked. So how did someone find me, let alone creep up without setting off the motion lights? Another knock. Light. Insistent. There was no way this could be anything good, right? My heart was racing, my stomach already twisted into knots. Muscles pulled tight. I reached for my phone. My stupid fingers fumbled it, and it hit the floor mat. The thump seemed thunder loud, and when I sat back up, I nearly screamed. A child's face was pressed against the window. Pale skin, dark hair, wide, staring eyes. But something was wrong. The glass reflected weird, but there was no shine in the kid's pupils. Just black. Completely black. I choked on my breath. Every instinct in me screamed wrong, wrong, wrong. Why was there a child out here? I was so far away from any of the main roads. It wasn't the kind of place children would be. The kid didn't move, didn't blink. Then, another knock. My head snapped toward the sounds, and my stomach dropped. There was a second one, a little girl this time standing by my back doors. Same dark hair, same vacant black stare. I don't scare easy. I've slept in parking lots where guys tried breaking into my van. I've camped in places where the only sounds were coyotes circling. I'm not an adrenaline junkie, but I'm also not just starting out. But this was something else. I kept my hand low, fumbling for my knife while trying to keep my breathing steady. That sounds bad. These were just kids, right? But you don't understand. There was something wrong with them. The boy at the window finally spoke. "Let us in." 3 words, no emotion, no inflection, just a flat, empty demand. I shook my head. It made all my hair stand on end. He spoke again, more persistent this time. "Let United States," and the girl knocked again, harder. I heard it rattle the doors. It was a childish response, but I grabbed my blanket and pulled it up over my shoulders, cowering beneath the heavy cotton like it was a shield. I clutched my knife so tightly, it made my knuckles ache. I don't know how long I sat there, too afraid to breathe. I knew that if I opened the door, I wouldn't be able to close it again. Suddenly, they stepped back. The dark of night engulfed the windows again. I barely had time to process that relief before a new sound nearly made me scream. A tap on the driver's side. I whipped around. There was a third child, a new one. This kid was a little taller. He was maybe 12 at the oldest, standing inches from my driver's side door. Unlike the other two, he was grinning. The handle jerked, but I kept my doors closed so it didn't open. The grin widened. "Let us in." The same 3 words again. It wasn't a question, it was a demand. I don't remember grabbing my keys, but suddenly they were in my hand. I flipped the ignition. The dashboard lit up. My heart slammed. If I had to, I'd run them over. But the engine didn't start. I turned the key again. Nothing. Nothing. The battery was fine. The gas was full. It had started just fine this afternoon, but right now the van wasn't starting, and the kids, they were still standing there, staring, smiling. I reached for my phone, fingers shaking. No service. Then the tapping started again. Every window, every door. A slow, measured rhythm. Knock, knock, knock. I must have blacked out at some point because the next thing I knew, the van was filled with light. Sunlight. I woke up still clutching my knife. My doors were locked. My keys were still in the ignition. My phone was in my lap. Battery at 23%. I risked a glance outside, but there was no sign of the kids. I opened the driver's side door, heart hammering. The air smelled like damp earth, pine. A beautiful, misty morning. My tires were untouched. There were no footprints in the loamy soil. It was like they'd never been there at all. But they were. I know they were. And I know they're still out there too, because my van still won't start. And I'm worried that tonight, the knock will come again. Reddit users, what are your darkest confessions? I killed an elderly man in front of his wife, and basically his entire family. Forgive me for any misspellings or format. I'm trying to do this on my phone. I haven't talked about this to anyone, even though it's been years. Even my closest of friends, minus the ones that were there. One night when I was in college, I was driving to get some liquor for a party my fraternity was supposed to throw the following night. I was taking a street I was very familiar with to get back to my house. It was dark, but the street was lit with street lamps. I remember that I looked at my radio for a second. Just a second, not very long at all. But when I looked back up to the road, there was a man crossing. I didn't have any time to react. By the time I saw him, he had already hit the good of my car and bounced off the side. I remember screaming and hitting the brakes and the wash of horror of what had just happened. I'll admit I had thought about speeding away, but I pulled over to the side and ran out of my car to check on this guy. When I got to him, his family was standing outside the restaurant he was leaving, and they were all screaming and crying. He has laying on the side of the road with blood coming out his nose and mouth. 2 other men were standing with him trying to see if he was all right and calling 911. All I could say was, "I didn't see him." I was frantic by the time it had set in what I had done. I sat on the curb across from the family and listened to their crying in agony while we waited for the paramedics to arrive. I sat there and sobbed while the paramedics took him away in an ambulance. I don't believe I've ever cried so hard and for so long. The worst part about all of it, and what still kills me today, was that his wife came over to me while I was distraught on that curb, sat next to me, placed her hand on my shoulder and said, "I was married to him for almost 50 years. We had a good life." Then she hugged me and said that she forgave me. After everything was said and done, it was ruled that it was an accident. I wasn't charged with anything, and I had one of my friends pick me up from the police station. I went down a dark path the years after that. I drank heavily, dropped out of college in my senior year, and had to move back in with my mother and father because I couldn't hold on to a job. Even tried to kill myself with pills. It was a hard road to recovery, which I feel I'm not fully recovered from, nor do I feel I ever will be the same. But eventually, I got my life back in order, joined up with the Navy and saw a bit of the world, and now I'm on track to go back to college and hopefully finish what I started there. It took almost a decade, but I finally start to feel almost whole again. I'm back to hanging with my friends and actually going out, so maybe there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Wow, you guys are awesome. Thanks for the support and feedback. I've never really posted anything on Reddit before because people can be assholes, but all these kind words are moving. Thank you, and big thanks to whoever reformatted my post. I'm shit at this, so thanks, homie. My aunt hit my mother, so I dragged her across the floor and punched her till she passed out. My aunt is a poisonous woman. Our whole family doesn't talk to her. She's done things in the past you wouldn't believe. So she left our lives years ago. Recently, she returned out of the blue at my mom's house. My mom has 2 other sisters and a brother. My mom and aunt never got on. My mom is a lovely person, but she could sense from a young age something was off about her sister, so she kept her distance. My aunt was nasty and would hurt people's feelings intentionally for no reason. She never had a partner or kids. She isolated herself from everyone. My gran cut her off when she tried to steal thousands of dollars from her. We all genuinely think there's something physiologically wrong with her. So back to where I was going with this. One morning, I was at my mom's house, just chilling out, and there was a knock at the door. So I opened it, and there she was. She walked in. She looked like she had took drugs. She looked dead behind the eyes. I tried to stop her, but she pushed me down. I honestly don't know why she came to my mom's house out of everyone. I quickly got up, and she went into the kitchen. She startled my mom and punched her in the face. My mom didn't even have a chance to blink before she hit her. She went down like a ton of bricks. My heart felt like it had been sucked through into my stomach when I seen it. Something came over me. I don't know if it was anger or adrenaline, but I ran up behind her and grabbed her hair, and I dragged her out onto the back lawn, and I bashed her face about 15 times. Blood was everywhere. Thankfully, no one seen me, or I might not have been writing this right now. I got up and I left her there. I went to check my mom. She was in a lot of pain. I looked back out the window and she was gone. We told our family immediately about this, and they were perplexed and angry as to why she just turned up and attacked my mom. I'm still so hurt and angry as I write this. But I also feel tremendously guilty and upset that I done that to her because I've never fought anyone and I'm not a fighter at all. But something came over me and I snapped. I can't get over it for some reason. It just seemed so unreal, and there was no reason for the attack. God forbid she had a weapon that's truly scary to think about. We didn't call the police, as I assaulted her badly and didn't want it to bounce back on me. That's another thing I feel ashamed about. But should I feel bad or not? I need others' opinions as I've been bottling this up for a while. My gran was devastated. She just wanted her daughter back, but from a young age she took to drugs, spent time in prison, and amount of other things. You can't help someone who doesn't want to be saved. Found out my dead best friend was in love with my wife, Light. I'm writing this as a confession because I don't know where else to speak about this, and I don't want my kids finding this out on my main account. My friend died a few months back due to heart problems. He was taking care of himself, so it was a shock to everyone, especially his wife who was with him at their house when he died. Due to this, she decided to move somewhere else, and because she and her daughter were still distraught, she asked me to pack up his stuff. He had some boxes in his basement, and after a while I started feeling nostalgic and decided to look into them. I found pictures of us from when we were kids all the way to before we got married. That was enough to make me feel bad, and I just got back to taping them up. But one of the boxes seemed to be in much better condition, so I decided to check it in case it was something important. To my surprise, I found out pictures of him and my wife from when we used to hang out together, as well as more recent pictures from family reunions, the most recent being from my wife's birthday party. Alongside the pictures, there were letters that he never sent her. The first one dated 2 months before I met her. The last one was also the same date of her birthday party. There was one that stood out the most was one from after I started dating her. He wrote that his time had passed, and since my happiness was as important as his own, he would watch over us. I'll keep his box safe since it isn't my secret to reveal. My mom caught my dad with a 16-year-old and covered it up. Well, 16 years ago, we had 2 of my friends and their mother living with us while they went through a divorce. I was 15 and my friends were 14 and 16. I was away at another friend's house one night. When I came back the following day, my mom told me she had kicked them out because the 16-year-old tried to make a move on my dad. She absolutely slandered that poor girl's name. When I got into my 20s, it still sat in the back of my mind. I just knew I didn't get the truth. So I reached out to the 16-year-old who was also now in her 20s. We met up and I got the true story. I could see the pain in her eyes. She said she'd been in therapy for years because of my father, that he did it in such a loving way, it really fucked her up. She told me they'd been drinking on the property, then went skinny dipping, all while my mother was in bed pregnant with my sister. They made their way into the house and upstairs, where eventually my mother walked in on them. I let her know I had her back if she ever decided to do anything about it. I am now in my 30s and recently became a mother, and it's all I've been able to think about. They still don't know that I know the truth. It's reawakened the rage in me, especially all of the teenage rage they made me shove down for so long. Because if anyone did that to my daughter, or if I caught my husband in that situation, hell no. It was easy to shove down before because I learned from the best, my parents. But becoming a mother, especially to a daughter, I've never wanted someone to pay for something they've done so bad. I feel like if I brought it up to my mom, she would just get angry and talk shit. She'd probably say the past is the past, and I need to let it go, that people can change. But I know he hasn't changed due to events over the recent years with his anger and control issues. He's a very big narcissist who believes he can do no wrong whatsoever. And my mother is so far up his ass. It makes me wonder if the 16-year-old was his only victim. If she was, and if he's never done it again, would that be okay? Is this forgivable? Because I don't feel like it is. I want to tell the whole family, but I feel like they just downplay it and make me seem crazy. Cut me off and turn my siblings against me. They've done it before when I called them out on other things. So, here I am, just needing to get it out, I guess. What would you do? I found my brother's suicide note on Reddit and didn't tell anyone. Throwaway account. Remorse. When I was around 14 or 15, I found my older brother's Reddit account because of a secret Santa package that got sent to us. I of course wanted to snoop onto his account, so I checked his history and found all of his posts for the past month had been to /r/depression. One post mentioned how my family, including me, were out of town due to me playing sports. That was the night he said he would finally commit suicide. He mentioned either pills or knives, and it still haunts me to this day. I was obscenely scared when I found this post, and was home alone and vowed to myself to never let anyone know that I found this. To this day, my parents do not know, and have tried to keep me in the dark about his struggles with mental health as much as they can, and my brother most definitely does not know. The only person who knows is my now long-term girlfriend, and now you guys. I feel awful for never telling anyone in my family, and I feel like this has taken a toll on my own mental health, which in itself is not in a good state at all. I just want to thank whoever dissuaded my brother from committing suicide that day. He doesn't know how much of a positive impact he's had on my life, and you kept him around so he could further that impact. I yelled at my grandpa, who was suffering from dementia. Now it's the last memory he had of me. When I was a teen, my Lolo, grandpa, stayed with us. At that time, he suffers from early signs of dementia. I'm actually very fond of him, and we were actually very close because he took care of us since early childhood and he was present when I was growing up. I was not the perfect child, nor am I a good person when I was a teen. I often lose my temper over the simplest things. Since my grandpa was suffering dementia, he often repeat things like topics, questions, etc. I was busy at something back then, and my grandpa asks me for the 5th time, "When will dinner be ready?" I easily lost my temper and yelled at him. I remember the words I said that I would regret forever. I remember saying, "Lolo, for the last time, it's too fucking early. Why can't you fucking understand?" I saw and felt the emotions he just felt, and immediately said sorry. For the first time, I saw tears in my grandpa, and he said sorry for having dementia. A couple of months later, his dementia worsened to Alzheimer's, and the first time I saw him again, I saw his repulsed look and reaction, the same one I saw that day. And every time we would visit, I would always be welcomed by that emotion. I fucking hate teen self for being a self-absorbed douchebag. My grandpa died last year, and I'm the only one he never mentioned by name in his will. Edit. I never had this much support over the internet. I'm truly grateful for all of you. I have never told this to anyone, and my parents never knew about this. I did come to an acceptance of what had happened, but I'd still wish I could have provided him something good before he lost his battle to Alzheimer's. I sold my body. When I turned 18, I was homeless, so for 6 months I sold body as a prostitute, to get money, to get somewhere to sleep for a night, hell, even to get a shower. It was the worst time of my life. I'm a man, and as a male you would think, wow, that's awesome, you scored so much. The complete opposite, in fact. Every day I would see myself in the mirror and cry thinking I'm not capable of love, or even getting on my own 2 feet. I thought to myself, I cannot afford some food for the night, let alone to fall in love. Having sexual experiences with someone you do not love is the most horrible feeling ever. I don't know about anyone else, but I feel like I was somehow torturing myself. It was the hardest, most demeaning, most heart-reneging thing I have ever done. Edit. I still have problems with self-esteem because of this, so when my girlfriend wants to have sex, I usually have to convince myself that she wants me for me and nothing else. Overall, an 8-hour process, so I've decided to tell some of my friends who I don't feel will judge me who may not know. I've read so much support and good vibes sent my way. Thank you all so much. Update. This post was 3 years ago, but every time I remember back to that time of desperation, I go back to this post and scroll down the comments. I appreciate each and every one of you, and that it really helps me each and every day. Nothing too crazy has happened other than my girlfriend broke up with me, but 3 whole years later and all the comments and kindness really helped me learn to love myself more and more. So I thank you all. Hugs. The Enfield Poltergeist, 1977, England. In 1977, the Hodgson family, living in a modest council house in Enfield, England, began experiencing disturbing supernatural occurrences. It started with strange knocking sounds, but soon furniture moved on its own. Objects flew across the room, and the children, especially 11-year-old Janet, seemed to be the focus of the activity. Janet was reportedly thrown from her bed, levitated in midair, and even spoke in a deep, guttural voice that was later analyzed by paranormal experts. Neighbors, police officers, and reporters all witnessed bizarre events in the house. One officer even signed a statement confirming she saw a chair move across the floor without anyone touching it. The case was investigated by Maurice Grosse and Guy Lyon Playfair, members of the Society for Psychical Research. They documented over 2,000 incidents of paranormal activity. However, skeptics believe that Janet and her siblings faked at least some of the events. The Enfield case remains one of the most well-documented and debated poltergeist hauntings in history. It even inspired The Conjuring 2. 2. The Dyatlov Pass Incident, 1959, Russia. In February 1959, 9 experienced hikers set off on a trekking expedition in the Ural Mountains of Soviet Russia. They never returned. Weeks later, searchers found their campsite in a disturbing state. Their tent had been cut open from the inside, and the hikers' bodies were scattered across the snowy landscape, some partially buried in the snow, others miles away from the campsite. The victims were found in various states. Some had crushed skulls and broken ribs, yet no external wounds. One was missing her tongue and eyes. Strangely, some were dressed in only underwear despite the freezing temperatures, while others had pieces of clothing that showed traces of radiation. Investigators were baffled. Theories ranged from an avalanche, which didn't match the evidence, to secret military experiments, yet no definitive explanation has ever been found. The Soviet government quickly closed the case, stating the hikers died due to an unknown compelling force. To this day, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the most chilling and unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. 3. The murder of Elisa Lam, 2013, USA. In 2013, 21-year-old Canadian student Elisa Lam checked into the infamous Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles, a place known for housing serial killers, suicides, and mysterious deaths. A few days later, she went missing. The last known footage of her, taken from an elevator security camera, was deeply unsettling. The video showed her acting strangely, stepping in and out of the elevator, pressing multiple buttons, peeking out as if hiding from someone, and making erratic hand gestures. Weeks later, after hotel guests complained about low water pressure and strange-tasting water, maintenance workers checked the rooftop water tanks. Inside one of the tanks, they discovered Elisa's decomposing body. The rooftop was locked, the tanks were difficult to access, and the circumstances of her death baffled investigators. The official cause of death was listed as accidental drowning, but many believe there was more to the story. Some suspect foul play, while others think she may have experienced a psychotic episode. The case remains unsolved, fueling countless theories about paranormal involvement, hotel history, and mental health. The Exorcism of Anneliese Michel, 1976, Germany. Anneliese Michel was a young German woman who, in the early 1970s, began experiencing terrifying symptoms. Voices in her head, hallucinations, and violent reactions to religious symbols. Raised in a strict Catholic household, her family believed she was possessed by demons rather than suffering from a medical condition. Doctors diagnosed her with epilepsy and schizophrenia, but medication didn't help. Her behavior worsened. She ate insects, drank her own urine, and spoke in multiple voices. She also displayed supernatural strength, often throwing family members across the room. Her parents turned to the Catholic Church for help, and after initial hesitation, 2 priests were assigned to perform an exorcism. Over 10 months, they conducted 67 exorcism sessions, some lasting up to 4 hours. During these rituals, Anneliese claimed to be possessed by multiple entities, including Lucifer, Judas Iscariot, and even Adolf Hitler. By July 1976, after months of extreme fasting and grueling exorcisms, Anneliese died from malnutrition and dehydration. She weighed just 30 kilograms, 66 pounds, at the time of her death. Her parents and the 2 priests were charged with negligent homicide and sentenced to 6 months in prison. The case sparked worldwide debate about the dangers of religious extremism and the fine line between mental illness and possession. To this day, the recordings of her exorcism remain some of the most terrifying evidence of alleged demonic possession. 5. The Villisca Axe Murders, 1912, USA. On the night of June 9, 1912, in the small town of Villisca, Iowa, an unknown intruder entered the home of Josiah and Sarah Moore and brutally murdered 8 people, including 6 children. The attack was savage. The killer used an axe to crush the victims' skulls while they slept. The bodies of the Moore family and their 2 young house guests were discovered the next morning by a neighbor. Investigators found eerie details. The murderer stayed in the house for hours. Cigarette butts were found in the attic, suggesting he had been hiding there before striking. All the mirrors were covered. The killer draped cloths over the mirrors and reflective surfaces, a strange behavior that some interpret as ritualistic. No valuables were taken. This wasn't a robbery, it was a targeted attack. The axe was left behind. The killer wiped it clean and placed it next to the bodies. Despite several suspects, including a traveling minister who confessed but later retracted his statement, no one was ever convicted. The case remains one of America's most infamous unsolved murders. Today, the Villisca Axe Murder House is a paranormal hotspot, with visitors reporting eerie whispers, unexplained shadows, and the sensation of being watched. Some claim to hear children's voices crying in the night. Man in my garden. He's still standing there after 3 days. It started 3 nights ago. I was washing dishes when I looked up and saw him. A man. He was at the border of my garden, just beyond the fence, indistinct in the dim light of the street lamp. I had thought at first that I was imagining it, maybe a tree casting some strange shadow. But no, he was there. I didn't see his face, but I knew that he was looking at me. Just standing, not stirring. A shiver ran down my spine. I live alone. My house borders a small patch of woods, but I've never seen anyone out there before, at least not at night. I was paralyzed in front of the sink, thudding heart racing inside me. And then, after what felt like forever, I forced myself to turn away. Maybe he was just a drunk guy who had wandered farther than he should have. Maybe if I turned around, he'd vanish. I went to bed, trying to convince myself that everything was okay. The next morning I peered out the window. He was gone. A flash of relief swept over me. Probably just some temporary freak. That night, as I was locking down the building, I gazed out. He was back once more. Same spot, same stance. He hadn't budged. A prickle of discomfort crept up my spine. I grabbed my phone and hesitated, deciding whether or not to call the police. What would I even say? There's a man standing by my fence. That wasn't illegal, just creepy. So I did something else. I flipped on the garden light. He didn't blink. I crept closer to the glass, my breath misting on the cold window. Nothing, no shifting, no blinking. He just stood there, watching. I closed the curtains and tried to sleep, but my head was racing with thoughts. What if he was planning something? What if he was waiting for me to lower my guard? Tiredness eventually got the better of me. I had to have slept because the next thing I knew, my alarm was blaring. Morning. I leaped out of bed and ran to the window. Gone again. The pattern was repeated the next night, and the one after that. Every evening exactly at sundown, he would appear, staying in one spot, never moving, never speaking. By the 3rd night, I broke. I took a flashlight, my heart thudding, and stepped outside onto my rear porch. Cold air stung my face and my exhalations blasted out in tight white gusts. He didn't move. I made another step, holding the beam on him, and that is when I last saw his face. Or better, the lack of it. His skin was smooth, featureless. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. Just a smooth, blank, pale surface, as though something had cleaned him out. I took a step back, a scream caught in my throat. The flashlight flashed. For the first time in 3 nights, he moved. Not much. Just a jerk of the head, slow and jerky, as though he were nodding to me. Then he took a step forward. I ran. I slammed the door, locked it, and closed the curtains in the entire house. I shook too much to call the police. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen instead and sat against the wall, forcing myself to listen. Silence. No knocking. No scratching. No creak of footsteps on the porch. But I knew he was still there. I barely slept. When morning came, I forced myself to look. Gone. I phoned my friend, told them I was sick, and spent the day at their place. I lied to them. Now I'm home. The sun is setting, and I'm scared to look out, because I know what I will see. He'll be standing there, waiting. And sooner or later, he's going to move closer. I'm waiting for my brother to either call himself or get his life together. Today, my younger brother turned 21. No party, no celebration. He refused to read the birthday card from our grandma. He did not even want to blow out the candles on his cake. Ever since I was about 12, I knew my parents were failing him. He was a hyperactive kid, so they pumped full of ADHD medication, which gave him insomnia and anxiety. So they put him on anxiety meds and sleeping pills, which made him depressed, so they put him on antidepressants. All before age 10. He was given a computer at a young age and was completely addicted immediately. My parents set no boundaries in terms of usage, so he would play all day every day, sometimes late into the night before school. As you can imagine, this resulted in him becoming antisocial, ruined his grades, and prevented him from participating in any meaningful activities like sport or clubs. I would get into screaming matches with my mother over the fact that she needed to take the computer away from him. Then our other family members started expressing concern, then teachers. Our parents did nothing. Edit. This occurred when I was ages 12 to 14. Later, he was diagnosed with celiac disease, which explained his difficulty concentrating and other problems he had been experiencing. My parents provided him with gluten-free food for about 6 months before giving up. It was all too hard. Pathetic, I know. So he has now been eating gluten as a known celiac for the past 6 years. I have had a million discussions with him and my family about how much damage this causes, and they pretend to care, but are too lazy to do anything about it. I tried providing education. I tried giving meal ideas and grocery lists. I tried cooking gluten-free meals for the family. They do not change. As I became an adult, I would speak to other family members and family friends who agreed that what my parents were doing was wrong. They would agree that he needed the computer taken away, that he needed to be disciplined, and that he needed to stop eating gluten. At that point, so much damage had been done, and he ended up dropping out of high school 8 months from graduation. His reason? Our mother couldn't drive him, and he didn't like walking to school. My brother is not an idiot. My parents are both well-educated and intelligent people. Why they have made these choices I can only assume is to avoid temporary discomfort. He has been to so many psychologists, and nothing has helped. One psych refused to continue seeing him because he was refusing to accept help. Over the years, he had expressed how depressed he is, but seems to have no desire to be helped. He has threatened suicide a dozen times but never acted on it. When he does this, I urge my parents to take him to hospital, to call an ambulance, but then he is suddenly all better. He uses suicide as a threat to get what he wants from them, and they don't see it. I know the way I'm thinking might sound extremely harsh, but truly, I feel at this point he either does a complete 360 or simply ends his own life. Sadly, the latter is more likely to happen. I have exhausted all my options. He is unemployed and will not apply for jobs. He does not want to try any new hobbies. He refuses to volunteer anywhere. He knows that I am here for him whenever he needs, but he does not want help. At the end of the day, there is nothing left I can do unless he chooses to help himself. We have both been dealt the same cards in life. I have not been exempt from problems in my life. I have had low points. Arguably, I have faced far greater challenges than him. But I have made the best of what I have. I have helped myself. He has decided this life for himself. In the past year, I have had to stop trying and simply let go as other priorities in my life take over. I'm currently working full-time and saving for a house deposit with my partner. We plan on getting married and having children as soon as financially possible. Once I have children, they will be my top priority. I fear that when our parents eventually pass away, I will be the only person left in his life. At that point, I will not be able to help him. I just had to confess the way I feel. I know it is horrible, but it is the most realistic conclusion to this problem. Tell me I am an asshole. Tell me there is something I can do. Edit. I do not live with my family anymore. For the people saying I don't understand ADHD, I also have it but was diagnosed later in life. As is typical for most girls, it wasn't picked up when I was young. I have also suffered with severe depression and suicidal thoughts, but have chosen to reach out for help and work on developing healthy coping mechanisms. I didn't want to provide too many details about myself because I wanted my brother to be the focus on the post, but thought this would provide some more context. I got sad by my stepdad, and I haven't told my mom. My mom remarried my stepdad about 10 years ago. At first, he was nice. There would be yelling and arguments from time to time between them, but it was fine for a few years. My stepdad started drinking every night, and the yelling, slamming doors, and calling my mom names got worse. During COVID, we all stayed home. At this time, I was 16 years old, and I would stay up all night playing on my Xbox with friends online. And about 1 to 2 a.m. every day, my stepdad would start coming in my room drunk while I played online. I didn't really think of anything at first. BCs, he would just sit there and talk to me about school, game, etc. One night he came in and sat down next to me and put his hand on my leg and started moving. His hand up my leg, I flinched, and he walked out. The next night he came in, and I pretended to be asleep, hoping he would just leave, but he didn't. He climbed in my bed, and I stayed as still as possible. He then touched me inappropriately, and I told him no, and he continued. I kept trying to push him off of me and tried to scream, but he covered my mouth with his hand, and then proceeded to roddy me. And I cried the entire time. I felt so disgusted, and I hated myself after it happened. I woke up the next morning, and he didn't even know what happened that night, and I should have told my mom what happened, but I was scared she wouldn't believe me, and she would put me in a mental hospital. BC's, my sister, had told my mom he touched her inappropriately about a year before that happened, and she didn't believe my sister, and I didn't believe her myself, and I felt so stupid that I didn't believe her now. I still have never told my mom or anyone about what happened that night, but I should have. BC, as things got worse after that night. He started being really abusive, and he would hit me and my mom. We finally called the cops, and he got arrested for domestic abuse. I'm now 20 years old, and my mom is in the middle of divorcing him, and I'm so happy about that. I'm just not sure telling her after 4 years is a good idea. My mental health has been so bad ever since that happened. There's just so much weight on my chest, and it hurts so much. Has anyone else been seeing things after having a baby? So, I'm about 3 months postpartum, and I was wondering if any fellow moms have been experiencing this weird, what I can only guess, postpartum symptom. I'm hesitant to ask anyone I know for fear of them thinking I might be crazy, but I am desperate for answers because I feel like I'm losing my mind. Anytime my baby cries, or I lose my patience with my husband, I see this thing just out of the corner of my eye. I'm not even sure how to describe it. It's almost like if a spider was a person. All lanky arms and long skinny legs with gray paper-thin skin, and sunken black eyes hugging the walls as though it were growing out of them. I've only seen brief glimpses of it in those moments, seen it disappearing around corners or sinking behind door frames. Once or twice, I swore I saw it scuttling into a dark, shadowy spot on the ceiling. Just little things that I could write off as the sleep-deprived effects of a horror movie lover's mind. Until yesterday. Yesterday, I was changing the baby after a nap, and he would not stop crying, his high-pitched wails piercing my ears like needles being shoved directly into my cochlea. Tears pricked my eyes as I zipped up his onesie, praying to whatever god there may be that he would calm down long enough for me to regain my sanity. Click. 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 I paused my oncoming breakdown, the clicking taking me out of the crushing sense of defeat for a moment. Click, click, click. My eyebrows furrowed upon hearing it again. Slowly, I turned my head in the direction of the sound, and there it was, at the edge of my sight. Peering around the doorframe was an emaciated figure shrouded in shadows. I froze, not wanting to look directly at it for fear it would attack me or my son if it knew I could see it. My heart was racing. My son's cries were now muffled, background noise to the sound of that thing's horrible crackling joints. I could feel myself beginning to tremble, the tears from before now freely spilling down my cheeks. Slowly, I pulled my son closer to me. Now only small squeaks and soft mms escaping him as he nuzzled into my chest, unaware of the horror that loomed just a few feet away. "Hey, babe. Do you remember where we put the extra bottles? The rest aren't finished being sanitized yet." The sound of my husband's voice startled me out of my fear-frozen state, and I snapped my eyes shut for a moment, and in that moment, the thing had vanished. No clicks, no footsteps, not even the sound of a parting breath. Shocked, I looked around frantically, hoping that the thing hadn't scurried away to some other part of the room and wasn't lying in wait to try and ambush my baby, and once I moved. Nothing. I heard my husband coming up the stairs and tried to collect myself before he could see how frazzled I was. "Elena? You up here?" His sturdy frame entered the doorway, his dark brows furrowed in innocent confusion that melted into concern as his eyes fell on me. "Are you okay?" I stared back at him, wide-eyed and teary, from my spot by the changing table. For some reason I felt like I couldn't tell him. I was sure he'd think I was crazy. And maybe I am. Yeah, I just had some healing pain in my stomach and Gabriel wouldn't stop crying and I just got so overwhelmed and... His strong arms took me in, hugging me gently, our son enveloped between his parents, warm and safe. This should have eased me. This should have taken all of my fears away. This should have set everything right. But I could hear it again. Click. 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 Please, for the love of God, tell me some of you other freshly postpartum moms have experienced something like this. Please tell me I'm not crazy. Please tell me that me and my family are safe. Please. The first story we have was posted in our What Should I Do and is titled, "I Think My Friend is a Pedo. What Should I Do?" I 19 million have been friends with this guy. 19 million for about 4 years now. We started as online friends and grew from there. He's a really nice guy, we have a lot in common, and we bonded over a lot over the years. We grew pretty close, exchanged real names, shared secrets, and I guess became best friends. I really FW this kid. Both of us are from bad areas, so we both have not very legal backgrounds. I was there when he got arrested for the first time and vice versa, so I know his charges. He showed his paperwork, so I know he wasn't lying. We both enlisted in the military at 18, although he got in before me. My family ended up moving to his state about a month ago, and I hit him up to let him know since we hadn't talked in a while. He told me he'd been discharged from the military, which was crazy since he'd only been in a few months, and that he had gotten arrested and was on house arrest. He told me what the charge was and it checked out. We planned to meet up one night and I pulled up and we chilled and talked, and it was pretty nice seeing him for the first time. He told me about his charges and the case, and she and everything sounded normal, given his history. On the way home, I decided to look him up just to be safe. Since he's an adult now, everything is public record. I found him after a lot of digging, and voila, my heart dropped when I saw the charge. 1 count rape, 1 count child molestation. I remember just looking at the site waiting for it to change. I still can't believe it. I kept digging into the case and found the court documents and other details of the case, which I won't say here, but it's fucking disgusting and makes me sick to my stomach. Genuinely, I had to stop reading and take a deep breath because it's so graphic it deadass almost brought me to tears. The case is still pending, so Idek, his plea, or if he really did it. But I mean, if he's on house arrest, there can't be a lack of evidence, YK. It just makes me wonder what else he's lied about, or really what he's capable of. As a homie, I really want to confront him and get the full story because I still can't believe he would do something like that, especially so young. But at the same time, I don't want to excuse a pedo or a rapist just because we're homies. I really don't know what to do, bro. He doesn't seem like that type of guy, but if he's guilty, I have to hold him accountable. My record is clean, and I really don't want to associate with this kind of person, especially since that could hurt my military chances. I'm supposed to see him today, and I just have no idea how to approach this. I've learned so much the past few days that Idek, if I'd believe him if he tells me it's a lie. How do I approach this? Edit. To be clear, I absolutely plan on cutting him off. I just needed advice on how to confront the situation beforehand. Thanks for the advice, guys. The second story we have today was posted in our Ask Men Advice titled "I Opened Up Towards My GF and I Think It Destroyed My Relationship with Her." I've been lurking in this sub for a while, and I often read how other men's relationship got destroyed when they opened up to their GF. I have the feeling that this is the case for me as well, and I really don't know how to deal with it. Before my GF, I was the type of guy who could sleep with multiple different women in a week and not feel a thing. Obviously, I promised them the world on the outside, but deep down I didn't feel a thing for them. I had the emotional capacity of a rock. But with her, it changed. She is the very first person I care more about than myself, and the first person I thought I could actually show true emotions towards. A little while ago, the dog of my father's side, who I grew up with, died, and I was alone with my GF, and I just broke. It was the first time in years, or even a decade, that I cried. I just couldn't hold it anymore. Somehow this also opened up other things inside of me that I didn't deal with emotionally ever. Like, for example, that I basically grew up without a mom, and the fact that I was very insecure about my body for a long time because of my weight, which made me go into the other direction later on, where I do sports nearly every other day to never be overweight again. This whole venting felt really good, but all my GF answered afterwards was, "Are you done? Then you better go to sleep," which I found pretty odd, but didn't think too much about. Now, ever since her attitude towards me changed. Before, she regularly just vented about her work and day to me and asked me for advice. Sarah would tell me stories from when she was younger. She would randomly do cute little things for me. She doesn't do that anymore. Like, none of it. At first, I really didn't know what I did, and maybe if I am just overthinking it, but since I saw this subreddit and read the experiences of other men, it somehow clicked for me. I think I lost her respect ever since I opened up. What do I do in this situation? Is there a chance to make things right again? Because like I said, she is the only person I ever opened up towards, and I don't think I can get that same trust with anyone else again. Casino workers. What's the saddest thing you've ever seen? He wasn't just a regular. This man came in every single day, rain or shine, wearing the same worn-out suit. He never drank, never celebrated when he won, and never looked surprised when he lost. He just sat in front of the slot machines for hours, barely blinking, feeding bill after bill into the machine. At first, the staff didn't think much of him. There were a lot of gamblers like that, people who came in to escape reality. But then, they noticed something different. Over time, his clothes became more wrinkled. His hair got messier. He looked like he hadn't showered in days. Then, one night, he showed up looking shaken. His hands trembled, his eyes were red and sunken, and he had the look of someone who had nothing left to lose. A supervisor pulled him aside and asked if he was okay. That's when the truth came out. His wife had left him. She packed up and took the kids. His house was gone, foreclosed because he had spent the mortgage money trying to win it back. His job? He had quit months ago, convinced that one big win would fix everything. That night, he had nowhere to go. He didn't come to the casino to have fun. He came because it was the only place he had left. When security found out he was completely broke, they had to escort him out. He didn't fight. He didn't yell. He just stood outside in the cold, staring at the bright casino lights, as if he was waiting for them to invite him back in. And then, he walked away. No one ever saw him again. She was there every single day. An 86-year-old woman hunched over a penny slot machine, feeding it quarter after quarter like it was the only thing keeping her alive. At first, the staff assumed she was just another retiree who enjoyed gambling, but something felt off. She never celebrated wins, never showed frustration when she lost. She just sat there, pressing the button for 10, 12, even 16 hours straight. The only time she moved was when she needed to go to the bathroom. Sometimes she wouldn't even eat. One day, a young employee, new to the casino, got curious and asked her why she spent so much time there. Her response? "Where else would I go?" She explained that she had no family left. Her husband had passed years ago. Her kids? They never visited. "At least here, I hear people talking. At least here, I don't feel like a ghost." That hit hard. The casino wasn't a place for her to win money. It was just a place where she felt less alone. The saddest part? One night she didn't show up. She never missed a day. And just like that, she was gone. It was past midnight when the teenager walked in, looking around nervously. He was way too young to be inside the casino, but he didn't care. He was looking for someone. That's when a dealer saw him walk up to a poker table and grab a man's arm. His father. The man looked up, annoyed. "Dad, please. You have to stop. We need money for rent. Mom's crying at home." The entire table went silent. This kid had been standing outside the casino for hours, waiting for his dad to come out, but he never did. So he ran in, desperate, begging him to leave. And do you know what the father did? He pushed his son away. "Go home. I'll be back when I'm done." The security had to escort the kid out. He wasn't allowed inside. But the look on his face, it wasn't just sadness, it was hopelessness. Like he already knew, his father was never coming home. Some stories are sad, some are worse. One casino worker recalled an older man who had been gambling for over 24 hours straight. He was a regular, known for never taking breaks, barely eating, barely talking. Then, he just stopped moving. At first, no one noticed. People walked by thinking he was just focused. But when a security guard tapped his shoulder, he didn't respond. He had passed away at the slot machine, mid-spin. And the worst part? The casino staff quietly removed his body, and within minutes, someone else was playing his machine, like he had never even existed.